Make the 38 special and 44 special great again. And I'm testing some Hornady XTP hand loads today. So these bullets were sent over to the channel by one of my Patreon supporters, Hillbilly Scholar. So thank you for sending those bullets over. He also sent me over a chamber hone to try to get some of my stuck case issues resolved with this particular 44 caliber revolver. So I did one quick pass through each chamber. We'll see if that made any difference. I'll probably have to do a bunch more passes, but it should help a little bit thus far. So what I got here, I did a test about a month ago where I did some really warm loads, and I'm using basically the same charges I used then, but back then I was using Sierra bullets, which didn't perform particularly well. I'm gonna use the same weight bullets and the Hornady XTP and see if that makes a difference, and a little bit different primer. So using Alliant Power Pistol, I'm using CCI Magnum primers, small pistol primers for our 38 special, and CCI large pistol primers, Magnum pistol primers for our 44 special. So our 38 special is a 125 grain XTP. We are loaded over 7.1 grains of power pistol. Max charge for a load like that is about 6.9 grains, so about 2/10 of a grain over. And with our 44 special, I'm using 9.5 grains of power pistol powder. Max charge is supposed to be 9.1 grains, so I'm going a little bit above that as well, and with Magnum primers. So I'm going to use my 4-inch barrel revolvers to do this test. My 4 1/8 inch Smith & Wesson 686 and 357 Magnum to test these 38 special plus B hand loads, and my Smith & Wesson Model 69 with a 4 1/4 inch barrel to test these 44 special loads. So we're going to go through the chronograph, see what kind of velocity and accuracy we get at the same time. Then I'm going to do my 10% clear ballistic test. So I'm going to go into plain 10% clear ballistics to see what the best potential of those cartridges are. No denim in the way to clog a hollow point or anything like that. We'll see if we get some hollow point expansion. Then we'll move along to doing a real world simulation where I'm going to have 4 layers of denim on this first 3-inch piece that represents our pectoral muscle. After that, we're going to have a 1/4 inch medium density fiberboard to represent hitting ribs or sternum, 16 more inches of clear ballistics, and another 1/4 inch medium density fiberboard at the back to represent hitting back ribs. Clear ballistics is roughly the half representation of the density of flesh. So 3 inches and 16 inches is more like 1.5 inches and 8 inches in a real living target. So we're really trying to simulate a 9.5 inch target with ribs in there. So we'll do a plain clear ballistics shot, then a real world simulation shot, and then I will shoot at the steel target to see what kind of practical accuracy and shootability I can get with these. So let's get started with this test. All right, first up we have our 38 Special Plus P 125 grain XTP, over 7.1 grains of power pistol powder. So let's see what we get here in about 5 yards from the target. See what kind of velocity we're getting. 1155, 1073, 1202, 1188, 1184. Let me run a few more because that one is kind of low. I want to get the average more consistent. All right, I'll run some more. See how these do. 1106, 1165, 1133, 1157, 1182, 1134. So not the most consistent rounds I've ever loaded. Really high velocity, but a little bit inconsistent for my liking. So our 44 special, 180 grain XTP, loaded over 9.5 grains of power pistol. Let's see how our 44 special does. $10.26, $10.35, $10.13, $10.50. See how our case ejection is with that hone that Hillbilly Scholar sent. Pretty good. Let me run some more because I want to keep these averages as consistent as possible. All right, I'll keep going here. 1092, 1032, 1010, 1020. All right, so not super consistent with that as well, but one thing about that is these were a lot higher than the Sierra bullets velocity. Even though I'm running the same powder charge, it could have to do with that Magnum primer. but it could also have to do with just that bullet construction and how deep that sits in the case. As where with our 38 Special, it seemed less consistent than the Sierra hand loads. So, but these are completely different bullets. Let's see how they do on our ballistics gel block test. All right, first up, our plain clear ballistics shot. So because those velocity averages weren't super consistent, I am putting the chronograph in front of that gel block. Hopefully that'll pick up the single reads as they go into the block. So let's see what we get here with our 38 Special Plus P. (1110 feet per second). All right, 44 Special. 1,012 feet per second. Let's go take a look. All right, so I was definitely expecting the opposite of this. I was thinking that the 44 Special would go really deep and the 38 Special maybe not so much, but with these, the 38 Special went deeper than the 44 Special. One thing to note here, the first thing I'm noticing here, first 3-inch piece here, our energy dump with our 44 is significantly greater with the 44 versus the 38, which is opposite of normal because we had a lot more velocity going on with that 38 Special, so you would think that would have more energy dump, but it didn't. A little bit more damage in the gel overall with our 44. So our 38 Special Plus P, we went to 21 inches of penetration. With our 44 Special, we went right to 18.5 inches of penetration, and it rolled back a little bit. So I would say our 44 Special is looking promising with this particular load. So let's put on our denim, put in our rib simulations, and see how these do in our real world simulation. All right, our real world simulation, 4 layers of denim followed by 3 inches of clear ballistics. It represents a pectoral muscle followed by a 1/4 inch medium density fiberboard. That'll represent hitting ribs or sternum. 16 more inches of clear ballistics, and then another 1/4 inch medium density fiberboard at the back of that first block. So let's see how our 38 Special Plus P does. 1107 feet per second. Let me set that back up and hit it with the 44 Special. All right, 44 Special. Let's see how this compares. (993 feet per second. Let's go take a look. All right, so very interesting here. We definitely have more damage going on, up here with our 44 Special. Our first 3 inches, though, we had a little bit more energy dump with our 38 Plus P than our 44. But after going into that block, we got more with the 44. So when you look at our first 3 inches here, our 38 actually has a bigger hole going through than our 44, which would indicate that we had some expansion right away, which, is confirmed by this here. A little more energy dump. As with our 44, we don't see as much energy dump right there, which means that denim kind of impeded its ability to expand, and then it went straight through there. But once we got into this block, a lot more damage, and I don't know if they've expanded or not, but just a ton of damage even without expanding if they didn't. So both of these poked through the back rib simulation. They're both coming right out the back here, except our 38 went just a hair deeper there. So what we got going on here, our 38 on the bottom here and our 44 on top. So our 44 actually made a bigger hole going through there than our 38. So I'm going to add about a ½ inch to this measurement that I'm showing here because of the MDF was spacing that out a little bit more. So this may look a little bit different than where I'm lining this up, but with our 38 Special Plus P, that will count as 20 inches of penetration, which isn't too bad overall. And with our 44 Special, 20.5 inches, so only a ½ inch more penetration. So looking at these, you know, it looks like our 38 did expand a little bit through our real world simulation, but our 44 really didn't. So that extra velocity really helped out that 38 Special from expanding. But I mean, these are fast for what they are. So to not get any expansion with that, I mean, that's pretty typical for 44 Special, but most 44 Special 180 grain does like 750 feet per second factory ammo. So this is moving a lot faster, and we're still having some trouble there. So you would really have to push this even greater to get some good expansion with that 44 Special. Probably going to have to get into light magnum territory there. But good power overall for what they are. So let's pull these out of block. We'll take a close-up look at them. Then I'll shoot our steel, see what kind of practical accuracy and shootability I can get with these. All right, so here's a close-up look at these bullets going through plain gel, our 38 Special and our 44 Special, and here's our unfired bullets here. So here's our 38 Special. Now these XTPs never really expand all that big. They're kind of meant to get some expansion, but not huge expansion. So if we compare that to the one that was unfired, 125 grain XTP, and not bad overall. Our 44 Special, I'd say had similar percentage of expansion. Looks pretty good compared to our unfired bullet here. You know, pretty good expansion compared to the unfired bullet there. 180 grain XTP. So things change up a little bit when we go through our rib simulation here. Our 38 Special and our 44 Special. Now our 38 stayed more consistent. Has pretty similar overall size going on there. It's just not a lot of expansion. Compare that going through the plain gel here. Not significantly different. So this is good in the sense of it's a little bit more consistent with what it's going to do. Now our 44 Special, we had basically no expansion compared to the one through plain gel. That being said, it's still a 44 caliber bullet. So when you compare that to, you know, the 38, there's not a big difference there. So that's why, you know, 44, you know, its percentage of expansion and it is less, and it, you know, kind of failed in a regard. But at the same time, you know, it's not going to get smaller. So in some regard, that did as well as that did in the real world. I mean, percentage wise, yes, this did much worse, but you know, if an attacker was hit with this bullet here that's just barely smaller than that one, and it's heavier and it's, you know, hit with more energy, it's probably going to be just as effective, if not more effective than that. So, you know, these things are always kind of hard to evaluate based on that, because, you know, sometimes expansion doesn't tell you everything. But overall, our 38 did better, a little bit better for our ballistics gel testing. Our 44 did a little bit worse for the actual testing, but I'm going to say it's just as good, if not better, than the 38. So that's a close-up look at those bullets. All right, 14 yards from the target, so I'm just going to see what kind of practical shootability I can get with these, see how the recoil feels for me. So I'm going to get a front sight picture and then pop these off as fast as I think I can hit the target from this 14 yards or 42 feet. So 38 Special Plus P. A little bit of flash going on there. Recoil's not too bad though. 44 Special. See how this does. Not too much harder to control that. You know, it's not substantially more recoil than the 38 Special. I mean, there's a little more muzzle rise, but not really what I would consider a lot of recoil. So let's back this up and see how I can do some from some more distance. All right, 75 yards from the target for fun here. Let's see what I can do with our 38 Special Plus P. All right, I have a dead primer for some reason. So I'm gonna wait here just About a few more seconds here. Generally hang fire would be already, so I'll move the gun to the side here and pop that out like that. Yeah, hard primer. So being these are Magnum primers, sometimes that can happen. So let me give that a strike with the single action. That will hit it a little bit harder. All right, let's keep going here. All right, same thing here again. Too hard of a primer. A single action. All right, missed quite a few there. Keep going. All right, not too terrible for accuracy. I'd say it's pretty good there. I did pull some, but you know, obviously any missed shots are going to be completely on me. So let's move on to our 44 special, see how this goes. Huh. I'm doing a lot worse with this. Not really sure where that's hitting, so I'm gonna see if it's just me. Or a single action, see if that'll help me. Could just be me with this revolver today. So I think they're just shooting a little bit high for my point of aim. I aimed below the target and hit with that one. So keep going here. What's interesting there is they're all hitting to the right for me on those misses. That parallax down there will show it a little bit different than what it is, but that's where they're hitting for me. So let me grab a few more rounds and see if I can correct this and see if I can make this shoot a little bit better for me. All right, round two. Let's see what I can do with our 38 special again. These were shooting pretty good for me. A little bit low, but you know, pretty much centered. All right, those shoot pretty good for me. I'll move on to our 44 special here. And these were hitting, you know, from my view, all of them were hitting to the right or high. So judging from that, I'm going to have to aim just a little bit low and just a little bit to the left in order to place these center. So let's see if I can do it this. I didn't do a whole lot better there. I'll keep trying here. Let me fire them single action and slow. It's probably just me today. All right, so I would say it's probably just me today. You know, interestingly enough, this Model 69 has a lighter trigger than the 686. And sometimes too light of a trigger can cause the same issues as too heavy of a trigger. So I'm going from shooting that 686. It has just a couple pounds heavier, and it's just got a certain hold to it. And now I'm doing that same hold on that Model 69, and it's like I'm pushing a little bit too hard. So then it's pulling those shots. So overall, the accuracy isn't terrible, but I would say most of this missing is on me because, you know, I'm not feeling particularly well, and it's warm today and all of that. But overall, I would say the performance is decent for what it is. You know, especially with that 44. I would say, you know, between the 38 and the 44, our 44 did better because we just had that little bit more consistency going on, you know, as far as not over penetrating and playing gel and not penetrating that far in the real world simulation. You know, and our 38 expanded both times, so that did better in that regard. But just the consistency of getting, you know, better performance in playing gel and then still going as far as that 38 and creating more damage in that gel, you know, that's one of those things. Yes, the bullet failed. We did not get 1.5 times expansion. However, that doesn't necessarily mean anything. And, you know, every time I explain that, people are like, you're making excuses. And then the same guy next week, extreme defenders are the best ever. Like, you know, you got to pick your battle here. But I would, in my opinion, the 44 is a little bit better performer because I'm looking not at the bullets, I'm looking at right at the gel, and, you know, just the tearing striations I'm seeing through it, and it looks like the 44 did a little bit better. But the accuracy of the 38 was better for me and easier to shoot. So it's really a wash here. I can't say one of these did better than the other. I can say both of these won because I had a lot of fun with these. And thank you again to Hillbilly Scholar for sending these bullets over for testing and for the chamber hone and all of that. And I got a lot more bullets to load up that he sent over, a lot of various cool loads that you're going to see coming. So again, thank you again, and thanks for watching, guys.